Hi there folks, back again for another video. This one is going to be another Lord of the Rings themed affair, and this is mainly me focusing in on a question that I raised with myself during the week, and that is, are we going to be getting The Last Alliance as a source book, or at least a supplement for the Middle-earth strategy battle game? Now, this came to mind because I was reading through my Armies of the Lord of the Rings book, and we've had a whole bunch of other things happening at the moment that have been really making me think about the Second Age and the Last Alliance that is shown at the start of the Peter Jackson movies. Now, in the Armies of the Lord of the Rings book, in the Numenor section, and this is not new news, everyone who's read that book will know about it, there is a mention of Anarion, although Anarion, who is Isildur's brother and Elendil's other son, is not featured in there as a playable character. He's not a hero that you can choose. He has the ability to affect the armies of Numenor on the tabletop. Now, that leads me to thinking that we are going to be getting a miniature for Anarion, or we're meant to be getting a miniature for Anarion, in the not too distant past, and now possibly in the future. And that's leading me to discussing a lot more stuff to do with The Last Alliance, because of course we've also got the Rings of Power series, which is starting in September. So with that series starting in September, and Games Workshop saying that they're not going to be doing anything really to do with the Rings of Power, this does, however, open the door for them to do more stuff with the Peter Jackson movies and the books and the appendices. So obviously they've got the rights to The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and the appendices for making miniatures in, as you well know from looking through these. Well, one of the defining moments of the end of the Second Age is that last alliance of men and elves, where Gil-galad and Elrond and Elendil and Isildur and all the mighty armies of good fought against Sauron, and the ring was cut from Sauron's finger, and it was nearly thrown into the fire and lost forever. But unfortunately, Isildur held on to it. Well, what if Games Workshop are actually looking to capitalise on what's happening with the Rings of Power and that series, and bringing us a source book, a little bit like what we've seen for War in Gondor or War in Rohan, where they tell a bunch of different smaller scenarios based around that last alliance of men and elves versus Sauron. Of course, you could have the massive final battle in there as a supplementary piece, but what if they threw in a bunch of other stuff that is tied into the lead up to that, and taking on Sauron in small skirmishes before that massive final battle? Or maybe they're going to break it down into different scenarios where you'll have certain key characters fighting off against Sauron at certain moments, or particular orc generals and that kind of things around the mountain of fire and all that kind of thing on the tabletop, as we saw in the movie. So what's lending me to think about this a little bit more is also what we've been seeing in the news as well. I'm just going to show you some of the pictures that I want to pick out, particularly around the Last Alliance as well, because these are amazing. So if you've never seen any of these before, these come from HVM Workbench, who is a absolutely sterling painter and has been doing these amazingly moody scenes from Middle-earth for many, many years now, and absolutely loves it and paints them on the miniatures up absolutely beautifully. And this really got me thinking that, it'll be really awesome to see a bunch of these miniatures coming back to the tabletop with a new lease of life. And because, they really are fantastic. And yes, that amazing moment where all the archers fire past Elrond and all that kind of thing. Oh, brilliant, fantastic stuff. But this is leading me to some of the news that we have had in the last couple of weeks. And obviously we had the new start set coming up, which is going to be the Battle of Osgiliath, which is cool. Obviously plays things out from sort of like the Two Towers and into the Return of the King and all that kind of thing, which is quite nice. But we also got the announcement of this new plastic miniature. So this gives us a new plastic Elrond that is foot and mounted, and interestingly, they have armed him and they've also armoured him in the same outfit, the same raiment that he had when he was fighting during the Second Age at the Last Alliance. That is the outfit that he's wearing during the Last Alliance section. It's not him in his battle armour that we saw from The Hobbit, when he's going to, take on the Necromancer in Dol Guldur. This is very much the Last Alliance version, the Lord of the Rings version of Elrond. And that's leading me to believe that we're going to be seeing some interesting stuff coming up in the future for the Last Alliance and the Lord of the Rings and the miniatures for the Middle-earth strategy battle game. Because once we've got an Elrond, suddenly we look to the rest of the miniatures in the line. Now, the Elendil and Isildur models were great of their time, and they are still fantastic metal miniatures, but you see that they could probably do with a little bit of an update at this point in time. Imagine if we got new, awesome plastic miniatures, both foot and mounted, for Elendil and Isildur, with their swords at the ready, Narsil at the ready to, chop the hand off, or the fingers off Sauron. Oh my god, a new plastic Sauron would be amazing as well, wouldn't it? In that same kind of imperious pose, sort of, standing high and mighty above everybody else before getting cast down. That would be amazing stuff. But yes, so you've got your Elendils and Isildurs that could be redone. Maybe we even see a version of Isildur where his mounted version is the one that gets ambushed, and when he gets shot and, they find the body in the river and all that kind of thing, and the ring slips from his grasp. Of course, we're getting the new miniature for Elrond. Again, I'm just going to draw those parallels between the two models. Exactly the same outfit, just done 20-odd years later, effectively. And then, of course, you've got Gil-galad, who's an amazing character in the books. Mighty Elven King. Obviously stars in the Rings of Power as well, because that's a Second Age story, one of the High Kings of the Elves. You could bring him back to the tabletop with a brand new miniature as well, both foot and mounted perhaps. Or maybe we see a box where we have Elendil and Gil-galad in one set, so they could be together in one box. That would, because they do like to pair things up. And then you have Isildur foot and mounted as perhaps one of the other options. That could be kind of cool as well. And then, of course, we have the Warriors of the Last Alliance. Now, we do know from this that we're getting a brand new plastic High Elf banner bearer. Well, it seems strange to me that they would spend all that time working on a single plastic model like that and not think about how that could be applied to what we see here. Now, this has been the set that's been around from the very beginning. This was the set that I picked up as part of the start set for the Fellowship of the Rings way back in that big green box. And they have served the community well, although a lot of people are obviously very aware of how duplicated these poses are, as you can see here. But I think it would be really awesome to see 2 new boxes come out in plastic featuring your Elves of Rivendell and your Men of Numenor. Now, obviously, the Men of Numenor have to kind of be used for that sort of more historical period, looking back in time. But that's nothing that Games Workshop and Forge World haven't done before. They have worked in the past on Helm Hammerhand, for example, bringing a character from back in sort of Rohan's history to the tabletop to play in the main game and all that kind of stuff, which I think is really nice. But you could redo those in plastic, bring them with spears and bows, a little bit like what we saw in these sets where we had them, again, as you can see here, with their spears at the ready and their bows at the ready. I think these are still metal models as well. Yes, these are still metal models from back in the day. But I remember really wanting to pick these up, but could never really afford them, unfortunately. But yes, so yeah, it'll be really awesome to see these come back. Again, in the style of what we saw with the High Elf banner bearer there. I think these would be really awesome to see on the tabletop. Lots more action, lots more fluidity. Getting a lot more of those kind of poses with the hand and a half sword in there, so it looks like they could, almost be turning into that Thresher that you see in the Last Alliance scene. I think that would be really cool to see. Obviously, the same applies for the High Elf Warriors. They've had these metal kits as well, hanging around for a while. Obviously, in a little bit of in need of an update. That banner bearer has obviously now been redone in plastic alongside Elrond, but there's your sort of elven captain as well. These are again metal models too, so these have been sitting there for a very long time. Now imagine, just imagine, if the folks at Games Workshop, they bring out this Last Alliance Sourcebook, this supplement that tells the tale of the Last Alliance through to Isildur losing the ring in the river. You can play all of those scenarios out, however they want to do it. You have these 2 new plastic sets with bowmen, spearmen, and hand and a half swords alongside spearmen, swordsmen, and bowmen for the Warriors of the Last Alliance for the Numenor side. And then they turned those into new battle host boxes. So you have a new sourcebook come out for the Last Alliance, all ready and raring, based around the fact that the Rings of Power is out there, not actually linked to it, because obviously it doesn't seem like they have the rights to do that at the moment. But you take all that energy that everyone's got for the Second Age and you condense it into being able to recreate that massive final moment of the Second Age before we move into the third with the Warriors of the Last Alliance there. 2 new full plastic box sets led by plastic leaders. In the one set, you've got Elrond foot and mounted alongside his force of elves, alongside the banner bearer perhaps as well. And in the other set, you have the men of Numenor, those awesome knights with their shields and swords and bows. And then you have Isildur foot and mounted in there as well. And then if people want to go an extra mile, they can pick up the plastic models for Gil-galad and Elendil. Maybe we'll even see them be done in forge rolled resin. Maybe we'll even see these kind of been done in. Maybe we'll see a new plastic set for the kind of arms and armour that you see here, and then these will be done as resin kits from Forge World in the near future. I think it's all going to come down to... Well, I say it's going to come down to how the Rings of Power goes, but these kind of plans get set in motion way, 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 way back in the past. They knew that Rings of Power is coming. They have probably been thinking about it behind the scenes. And I know that the people who run the Specialist Games studio and work on Lord of the Rings are incredibly passionate Lord of the Rings fans. We saw that when Troke was talking about the Lord of the Rings when he was doing the big Specialist Games update for Middle-earth with the live stream and all that kind of thing. And we know there's a bunch of people behind the scenes who are really, really into Lord of the Rings and trying to make awesome things. And while we'll have the Battle of Osgiliath almost telling one of those final stories, one of those final moments in the Third Age, I think it would be really awesome to see them go back in time and tell a mighty story about the Last Alliance and just give a new lease of life to these sort of old plastic miniatures. Now, I like these, and I'm going to be doing a little Elven force just to get me started with elves. I've got my old Elrond model in metal. I've got the old metal Gil-galad. I'm going to paint those up. I'm going to paint up 12 or so elves, 6 with bows, 6 with hand and a half swords, and I'm going to take them to the tabletop and play some cool games. I've even got an Elendil and Isildur somewhere in a box. I think, unfortunately, Elendil's sword is broken, although I kind of guess that makes sense, weirdly, which is weird, I suppose. But yeah, so yes, there are some miniatures out there that I need to dig out of my collection in order to bring back to the tabletop. But what do you think? Do you think that we could be seeing a return of the Last Alliance to the tabletop for the Middle-earth strategy battle game? I think the possibility is pretty high for this, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Would you love that? Would you pick up those 2 Battle Host boxes? Would you dive in? Oh, imagine if they did that with a brand new plastic Sauron as well, and you have an awesome Sauron model leading forces of orcs against one of those 2 battle forces. I think that'd be really cool. Battle hosts. They've got so many random names for their products. But yeah, I am a big fan of this idea, and I really, fingers crossed, hope they do it. I'm very excited for the Rings of Power, regardless of what anyone says. It's still Lord of the Rings, and it's on TV. I can't wait for it. It's going to be fun. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think we're going to be seeing a Warriors of the Last Alliance update? Are we going to get new plastic models? We've got Elrond. Are we going to see Isildur? Are we going to see Elendil? Are we going to see Anarion? Are we going to see Gil-galad? Not Galadriel, although she would have been around, of course. But yes, some amazing stuff for everyone to dive into. If you like this video, and if you're on the same wavelength as me, if you're getting tingles, make sure to give it a like, give it a share, subscribe if you like what I do. Make sure to check out the rest of my videos. I've done a really good one talking about all the new star sets that are coming out and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to go and check that out, please do. I will have links down to everything in the description below, so you'll be able to go and check out HVM Workshop for yourself. Some stunning work on the Middle-earth line. And of course, finally, there is also my Ko-fi link. So if you want to give me a couple of quid here and there to get me a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, or maybe just to buy some paintbrushes. That would be awesome, but you don't have to. Just being here, liking, sharing, subscribing and commenting is enough for me. Make sure to dive back in for another video very, very soon, and yeah, I will see you later. I need to get started on painting some elves. Bye for now.